Hola, muy buen día a todos, buenos días a todos. Haremos la rueda de prensa en castellano porque tenemos algún medio conectado desde Madrid. La rueda de prensa es para presentar el espectáculo Hatched Ensemble que vamos a ver el próximo domingo en Girona, un espectáculo de Mamela Nyamza, que es la primera vez que nos visita en el festival en Girona. Esto es una colaboración con Africa Moment, que ha montado una gira por Europa donde el espectáculo se puede ver en varios sitios, por ejemplo, también en el Festival de Alcántara, creo que justo antes o justo después de Girona. Y antes de pasarle la palabra a Mamela, quería agradecerle su visita a Girona y hablar un poco de este espectáculo que es Hatched Ensemble. Es un espectáculo que viene a partir de un solo que se llamaba Hatch. Hatch quiere decir eclosionar. Cuando un pollito abre el huevo, esto es lo que significa la palabra hatch, o sea, es el momento del nacimiento, de romper una cáscara para salir. Es un espectáculo de danza contemporánea que tiene distintas técnicas, desde zapatillas de ballet hasta, hasta un, hasta un lenguaje mucho más seguramente africano, con raíces africanas más profundas. Un espectáculo sobre la eclosión, yo creo que a partir un poco de la historia de la propia Mamela, que ha tenido un recorrido por ballets clásicos, incluso he leído que participó en algún musical a los inicios de su carrera, hasta la posición donde está hoy de ser una de las coreógrafas africanas más reconocidas. Le voy a pasar la palabra a Mamela para que nos cuente un poco qué es y por qué de este Hatched Ensemble.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for having us here. Thank you for the collaboration with Africa Moment as well, as I've been to the Africa Moment a few years ago. So thank you for having me. The show, why Hatched Ensemble? Because we really want to hatch too from Africa, having seen or having ballet being brought to us while talking about my experience, it was brought in the 80s by a white woman coming from Google, where I come from. It was interesting to do something that I did not know because I didn't know anything about ballet. I was just used to pop music, African music and all that, and African dance. So I didn't know anything about ballet. So after studying it and also never doing a role or being casted in ballet, I decided to do something that can speak to us as dancers from Africa, African women, people from Africa, to actually say something about this art form. Because many countries or choreographers, like from USA, you'll find that it's very neoclassical, very jazzy, and then in South Africa, we decided to actually break out of it and actually also claim it and make some kind of reference and statement about it from the African roots, from the African traditions, where we actually come from, and see what can happen mixing the two together. Because we're mixing two cultures here, we're mixing two traditions here, we're playing with two different instruments, like you'll find in the Sensen music, the famous ballet swan music, that we're also mixing it with traditional music. So why this ballet? Is because I've always wanted to do it. I've dreamt about it. I've seen it. I've imagined it. And it has never actually came out of my system, So it has been sitting at the back of my mind to actually do it when I'm done with myself, because I've been performing as a solo artist. So I started now to empower the next generation and to also just break out something from them, breaking out of their shells and actually coming forward and confronting the classical art form, confronting the structures of ballet, and see what we can do about it from Africa. So we are actually hatching. I mean, if you see hatched, you will see us as birds. I don't want to say the swans because we are not like feather-like. We very much like heavy birds from Africa. So I would say we're very much like ostriches, which comes from Africa. So people, of course, you will see the repetition of ballet, repetition of music ballet, but then we're actually referencing to the ballet that has been there for years and repeating all these centuries. So we're playing with that metaphorically. And in terms of the dramaturgy of the work, there's you see the ballet being mixed with African, and you see the music being mixed with African music. You'll see the point work being mixed with rhythms of African. So all of that is just us coming out of shells. Nest, like from the nest of eggs, when the birds are hatching from an egg, and you will see them kind of, when an egg hatches, it takes about 24 days. So in this work, there's a lot of suspension, and when you actually see an egg crack, you will see one dancer popping out, another one popping out. They popping out like popcorns or like chickens coming out from the egg shells. So the work is really kind of interesting, and you must be patient, because when something is hatching, it doesn't hatch immediately. It goes through a lot of things. So we actually take you through that history of ballet, where it took us as African dancers from where we started and what we've been through with it, the many conflicts, the mentality of it, and the colors that represent blood, that represents beauty. So we are not mocking ballet, but we are referencing it, and we're making a statement about it. And we're hatching out at the end, because before you hatch out, there's a bit of shyness and a bit of confronting the audience. And all of that, you see it in the work, and it's actually presented in Hatched. And actually with Hatched, is the energies of the dancers on stage kind of embodying the dancer's body, but the dancer's body is also embodying the audience bodies, because all of this is in confrontation, and you feel the same emotions. There's a bit of uncomfortability, and there's a bit of being released to as an audience. So all of these juxtapositions are playing with each other, which creates a discourse after the performance, because everybody has something to say about the work. So it's like a lot, and I don't want to spoil the work, but then if you have any questions, I can say a lot about the work, and also just how the people have received it in different cities and countries from Africa and in Europe. So all of that has been about hatching as well, because it's about hatching it out of Africa now and taking it to the world. That was another hatch, because we were actually walking on eggshells when we actually premiered this work in Europe. So whenever we come to a new city, there's a bit of us walking on eggshells, because we don't know how different countries, different people are going to view the work. But in most of the countries, somebody has taken something out of it, because it's a work that you will have to understand where ballet comes from and where we come from with it, because it was brought to us and we didn't know the classical art form. And then we ended up actually trying to claim part of it and making something out of it that we can talk about it too, as dancers from Africa and choreographers from Africa. And I happen to hatch from that as well. And the dancers are hatching themselves as artists, because it frees everybody from any situations you've been with as an artist, as a human being as well. And after all, I say it's a human condition. Yeah. I don't know if I'm too fast, but I kind of summed it up. But if you have questions, you can ask me.
Sí, vamos a abrir el turno de preguntas. De todas formas, igual empiezo yo. Este espectáculo Hatched Ensemble viene de un espectáculo original que era un solo interpretado por ti, que era Hatched, sin el ensemble, digamos. ¿Por qué esta necesidad de a partir de un solo o de una pieza donde bailabas sola, hacer un espectáculo de grupo con el mismo título, con el mismo origen?
Well, I wanted to still say something about ballet. I felt like with the multiple and then ensemble, it will make more of an impact as it did when it was a solo. I felt like I was not finished with it. I didn't want to put it in a suitcase. I still wanted to hatch more now. And within an ensemble, it did exactly that, what I have imagined with it. Because it's not only me now, but my motherhood, about me coming out. It was about also artistically, dancers coming out of their shells, dancers actually kind of embodying their traditions from the African roots and not forgetting them, and actually claiming themselves as dancers within this art form, because there's differences of how we dance in ballet and how we dance as African dancers. In African dance, when we dance, there's a bit of actually dancing from inside than being perfect than the outside. So this work is all about emotional insight, evoking our internal integrity, and actually awakening our spirituality, because it is a very spiritual work in terms of where it's rooted, because it comes from also our great-grandmothers, because the inspiration comes from the matriarchs of where we come from, how we used to see our mothers doing things, taking back the past to the present. So it's for me, it has actually developed a lot.
Sorry, we have some problems with translation. We are not listening to it.
Yeah, as I was saying, the ensemble is more kind of making an impact more than it. I mean, as a solo, it did, but I felt like I was not finished with it. I didn't want to put it in a suitcase and just throw it away. I felt like there's still more to be said about this solo developing into an ensemble, and to also empower the next generation to actually do a work that they can feel proud, because most of them, those who studied ballet or did ballet, kind of threw their point shoes away because there were no roles for them. So I decided to ask them to all collect their point shoes, and let's actually talk about this work as Africans, coming from an African perspective, African view, as dancers from Africa. So that's why I wanted to make more of an impact now, because as an ensemble, it became more richer, it became more accessible, differently than it was before. So with all of that put together, it created a triumph in terms of people's integrity being restored, and dancers and feeling good about themselves, and actually feeling that they're saying something that is not just dance, but dancing with a meaning, dancing with a purpose, and actually in the end also empowering themselves, not having a self-esteem as they did in ballet. So with this one now, they feel present, they feel like humans, they feel like women. Nobody is being told that you are big or skinny or what, and nobody's being told to look lighter, nobody's being told to do a hair differently. They come in with their afros, they come with their African hair, they come in with their bodies, and we actually use the way how Africa was before. We are bare-chested, because back in the past, our grandmothers, we used to actually have ceremonials bare-chested. So this as well is also bare-chested in terms of the African look, but mixed with ballet, with the point shoes, and having romantic tutus, and having the pads around it, as I had also in the past. It's just that now it's more developed and more changed and more modern, because now it's 2024 and back then it was 2007. So also me artistically, I've grown to actually play with it more and being outside, not inside now. So there's more food for thought now. Yeah.
Creo que todavía no han llegado preguntas de los periodistas. Estamos abiertos, entrarán enseguida. Te quería, ya que has sacado tú el tema, hablarnos un poco de las pinzas de la ropa, porque es un elemento muy característico del espectáculo. Yo creo que el tutú, las zapatillas de ballet, todo el mundo identifica qué referencias son, pero igual las pinzas de la ropa es un elemento que puede despistar más al público.
Okay, the pegs. I used to watch my grandmother a lot when he was doing the washing. In the Hatched show, there's a washing line, and my grandmother used to have pegs all over herself and actually hanging lines like that. So I imagined all of those pegs being a repetition of work, of domestic work, but then also metaphorically, I'm talking about a lot of work in ballet. And then as African dancers, I felt like we were hanging our dirty laundry from ballet, but also dirty laundry from any human condition, because the work is multi-layered. There's lots of layers in it. We're talking about domestic work, but at the same time, we're talking about ballet work, the hard work in ballet, but we're using it as hanging our dirty laundry on stage, which is what we've been through in ballet. And this something becomes a global topic because not only us Africans have actually kind of enjoyed the ballet structures in ballet studios or just in ballet places. So some people who have been to ballet, they understand what we're hanging on stage. And actually those pegs also create kind of not like a feather, like as I've said earlier on, we are not the swans, we're the ostriches. So we are actually kind of shaking more, and we are doing things that we never did in ballet. We are shaking, we are kind of evoking the floor and awakening our ancestors. It's like thunder, you know, it's not light. It's totally different from ballet in terms of being light and feather. This is heavy, this is grounded, this is actually awakening our ancestors. Also just creating drums on the floor, on the dance floor. So this is us beating the floor like beating the drums. So all of that creates all this new vocabulary, all this a new dynamic of how we are interpreting ballet in Africa, you know, differently from how it's done in the Western world, you know. So we are playing with all these differences. They're opposites, but with this work, they are intertwined together to hatch, to actually explode, to come out, to being reimagined, to being reborn, and actually appreciating our traditions and our roots too, just like we have done in the past with ballet, because we tried to appreciate it, but it didn't appreciate our bodies. So we're just playing with all of that. Yeah.
Vale, creo que ahora sí que hay alguna pregunta de periodistas. Paula.
Sí, hay un par de preguntas. La primera de Jordi Bordas, del Punt Avui, que dice, habla de hacer bailar al público. ¿Qué quiere decir esto? ¿Es una catarsis? ¿Bajan del escenario? ¿Cómo es participar de este juego?
No. When I'm saying I want them to participate, it's about witnessing and experiencing this work in terms of in energy-wise, not to dance with us, just to witness the work. Witnessing the work, there's a different kind of a feel that most of the audience who have seen the work get when they watch the work. You feel like you've witnessed something you've never seen. You feel like you've experienced something you've never felt. So this is more about the experience, about actually our energies kind of working with your energies, our bodies, and kind of feeding your bodies while you're sitting down, because we're kind of confronting each other with these different worlds, but at the same time, these different worlds came together on stage, and they actually create something when an audience is actually glued into it, because it's also about being patient. It's about watching the whole story unfolding in front of you. Then at the end of the work, you feel like you have hatched yourself. It's not about you participating and singing or dancing. It's just you participating with your body and feeling the energy and feeling it spiritually and emotionally. That's the experience. That's it. That's how I want you to witness the work. Yeah.
Genial. La segunda pregunta dice, a mí me gustaría saber qué significado tiene el color rojo de los chubasqueros que se vuelve a repetir en Hatched Ensemble.
Okay, the red coat in Hatched Ensemble, yes, I had the red coat. It was a fabric, cotton, but in Hatched Ensemble, when I repeated it, it was actually plastic raincoat material, which creates sounds. So it's a jacket, but in Hatched Ensemble now it's more of a plastic that creates sounds. And when it hangs, the jacket kind of represents getting into power, because they just actually hanged the red tutus that they had on their heads. They just hanged them, and then they wear the jackets. The jackets represent a different being, a different person, a different feel of actually now I feel good about myself. Now I can actually face the audience. Now I can actually confront the audience. So this is, and also in the red jackets and the red tutus together, it represents everything that is beautiful, but also ugly, but also bloody, but bloody as in blood, and also romantic. It's like when the clothes are hanged in the line all red, it's like you're going to a different world. So you enter with the dancers, but not physically. But when the dancers go behind the dresses, you feel that you've entered in a different world of dancers going through a lot of conflicts with their bodies, because some of them have been told that they will never make it. Some of them have been told that have felt inadequate in those ballet classes, and they did not have the equity that they wanted. So it's all of those. It's like I always call that scene that it's a bloody scene. It's dangerous, but romantic, but not romantic. It's playing with all of that bloody, hanging, dripping blood, the red color in the show and the red costumes. Yeah.
De momento no tenemos ninguna pregunta más.
Vale, voy a... Mira, dejamos un poco de tiempo por si hay alguna pregunta más. Has hablado de un poco de traer la danza africana a Europa. Aquí en España, Africa Moment está haciendo un gran trabajo de presentar artistas africanos al público español, sobre todo, o coordinándose con otros sitios de Europa. ¿Cuál crees que es el momento de la danza africana ahora mismo? Aunque haya este trabajo de Africa Moment, nos llegan pocas propuestas africanas. ¿Cómo definirías el estado de la danza africana ahora?
The state of African dance in the world and in Europe. All I can say is that I wish the world or in Europe, how they receive African dance could be received as artists, not always being exoticized and being seen as artistic work, because our bodies, when they're on stage, there's always an expectation of us being ceremonial. There's always an expectation of us of being viewed the same way. And I wish we can be received as artists, still showing you what we can do from Africa without the expectations of how we are always viewed as African dancers. Because also, as many as we are as African choreographers, some of us would like to shift the gaze of how we are viewed as African artists, not always being seen as exotic. Because yes, in the past, there's many African people who were exoticized in zoos, human zoos, all of that. But we would like this work to be viewed in a different way as an artist presenting an artistic work, not an artist just wanted to actually be entertaining only without an element of an artistic element expressing something. So this is how I would like the world to view us African artists, because not all of us want to be, how can I put it? Wants to entertain and actually playing to the gaze. We just want to shift the gaze as well at times, even though a work like Hatched Ensemble plays with all these two different ways of performing on one stage, but still there is a story intertwined if you wait till the end. So this is a work where you want to witness something, not to come into it thinking you're going to be entertained, just like any other typical artistic work from Africa. Yeah.
Muchas gracias, Mamela. Creo que no veo que hayan entrado más preguntas en el chat. Paula, está...
No, no hay ninguna pregunta más.
Muy bien, pues no hay más preguntas. Muchas gracias, Mamela. Muchas gracias a todos. Nos vemos el domingo en el Teatro Municipal de Girona. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye. See you soon. Bye.